The first footprint appeared outside the cabin door. The second appeared beneath the window. The third was found inside. All three were bare, narrow, and pressed deep into the mud. And all three pointed away from the cabin, even though the displaced soil showed that whatever made them had been walking toward it. By the fourth morning, the prints had reached the foot of Mateo Valdez's bed. What follows is an original work of fiction inspired by the Dominican legend of the Ciguapa. Descriptions of the Ciguapa vary, as living folklore often does. She is commonly associated with the night, the forest, long hair, an elusive call, and feet turned backward, making her path almost impossible to read. This story keeps those recognizable elements. Its characters, reserve, company, cavern, recordings, and events are entirely fictional. Mateo was an acoustic ecologist. He listened to places most people only looked at. He could identify a tree frog through heavy rain, estimate the distance of an owl from one broken note, and hear when a forest had gone quiet for the wrong reason. He arrived at Las Nieblas Biological Reserve with 12 numbered cases, a directional microphone, and 4 days to recover an array of wildlife recorders before a geological survey began. Las Nieblas was not marked on tourist maps. It occupied a steep fold of Dominican mountain forest where clouds settled between the trees before sunset and remained until morning. There was one ranger cabin, one abandoned fire road, and no reliable signal below the northern ridge. The recorders had been left there for 6 months to measure bats, frogs, and migratory birds. A fictional contractor called North Antillean Survey had purchased access to the neighboring slope. Its team planned to drill a narrow, exploratory bore on Monday. Mateo's job was simple: recover the instruments before machinery drowned out the final week of data. Inés Robles was waiting at the cabin. She had managed the reserve longer than Mateo had worked in the field. Her gray braid hung beneath a broad hat, and she carried a thin tracking stick marked with shallow notches. She did not greet him with a weather report. She asked whether he had brought an extra lock. The previous night, someone had opened the equipment shed without breaking the latch. Recorder 7 was missing. In its place, Inés had found a wet footprint. Mateo crouched beside the print. It looked human until he noticed the heel. The broad pressure mark was at the front. 5 smaller impressions pointed behind it. He told Inés it was probably a damaged boot print, doubled by rain. She pressed her tracking stick into the mud. The soil folded cleanly around the wood. Then she pointed to the grass beside the print. Every blade leaned toward the cabin. The toes pointed into the forest. The body had moved the other way. Mateo photographed the impression, measured it, and placed a plastic cover over it. He treated it as evidence because evidence was easier than belief. He had heard the name Ciguapa long before he understood what folklore meant. As a child, he had listened to relatives disagree about her across kitchen tables. One called her a dangerous beauty. Another said she avoided people completely. An uncle swore the backward feet were not a deformity, but a kindness, because anyone foolish enough to chase her would at least be led home. Mateo had dismissed all 3 versions when he became a scientist. Now, crouched beside a print that contradicted its own direction, he remembered everyone. Before dark, they recovered 3 recorders from the Eastern Trail. Number 2 held 6 months of insects, wind, and 1 spectacular dawn chorus. Number 4 had been opened by moisture. Number 5 was hanging exactly where Mateo had left it, but its microphone was facing the tree. Someone had rotated the unit 180 degrees away from the clearing and toward a wall of bark. Mateo checked the strap. No claw marks, no loosened buckle, no sign that a person had handled it. At sunset, the forest began its ordinary transition. Daybirds stopped. Frogs rose from the ravine. Bats clicked beyond the range of human hearing. Then 3 soft notes passed through the trees. They were not sung. They were closer to breath pushed through closed teeth. High, lower, lowest. Mateo lifted his microphone. The call sounded far away, perhaps across the ravine. The level meter struck red. Whatever made the sound was close enough to overload the microphone. He turned slowly. Nothing stood behind him. At his left boot, a patch of wet soil compressed by itself. 5 narrow toes appeared first, then an arch, then a heel facing him. Mateo did not run until a second print formed. They locked the cabin before midnight. Inés pushed a table against the door while Mateo copied the recording to 3 separate drives. On headphones, the call was even stranger. The forest echo arrived before the direct sound. Mateo knew that was impossible. An echo could not reach a microphone before its source. He inspected the waveform for reversed audio, bad timestamps, and damaged memory. The recorder was functioning normally. He played the file backward. The 3 descending notes became 3 rising breaths. Beneath them, hidden by the original direction, were footsteps in wet ground. 5 steps approached the microphone. A 6th stopped so close that the capsule picked up water falling from hair or leaves. Then came a sound like fingertips brushing the recorder's metal grill. Mateo removed his headphones. The same faint brushing moved across the outside of the cabin door. Inés killed the lantern. Neither of them spoke. For several seconds, moonlight drew a narrow line beneath the door. Something interrupted it from the other side, not with the shadow of feet, but with a curtain of thin, moving strands. Then the line cleared, and the call came from the valley. At 2:13 in the morning, the 3 notes came again. This time they sounded from the bottom of the valley. The cabin wall answered with a faint scrape. Inés whispered that distance was the first thing the mountain took from anyone who tried to follow her. Mateo asked who she meant. Inés did not answer directly. She said her grandmother described the Ciguapa as small and swift, with hair long enough to hide her shape. Another neighbor had described a man. Someone else insisted there were families of them in caves near water. Every version contradicted the next, but the feet remained, turned backward, a trail designed to defeat certainty. Mateo reminded her that stories changed every time they were told. Inés nodded. Then she pointed beneath the window. A wet print had appeared on the exterior sill. At dawn, they found another outside the door. Its toes pointed down the trail. Its pressure leaned toward the cabin. Mateo had placed 2 motion cameras outside. The first contained 4 hours of empty trail, followed by a single overexposed frame. In that white frame, a dark vertical shape stood so close to the lens that it had no recognizable edges. The second camera had never triggered, yet its protective glass was covered in beads of cold water from the inside. He checked the cabin floor. A thin crescent of mud lay beneath the bed, precisely where the opening footprint had appeared in his thoughts all night. There was no complete print this time, only the front edge of a heel, as if the visitor had begun to step into the room and changed her mind. Inés placed her tracking stick at the heel and followed the disturbed leaves, not the toes. The path led away from the cabin for 30 meters, then vanished on dry stone. Beside the final print lay Recorder 7. It was soaked in cold mineral water. The casing smelled faintly of limestone. A strand of coarse black fiber had caught beneath the battery cover, too long to be animal fur and too irregular to be manufactured thread. Mateo sealed it in a sample envelope without touching it. The memory card still worked. Its final recording began underground. Water moved through a narrow chamber. Droplets struck stone at long, regular intervals. Beneath them was a vibration so low Mateo felt it through the table before he heard it. Then came the 3-note call. After the call, the recording captured a drilling engine, men shouting, and rock breaking somewhere close to the microphone. The date embedded in the file was Monday. Monday was still 2 days away. Mateo did not believe the recorder had captured the future. He believed someone had changed the date, so he tested the sounds instead. The engine in the recording had a chipped fan blade that produced a repeating metallic tick. When the survey crew ran its drill for a short equipment check that afternoon, Mateo heard the same tick from across the valley. The recorded shouting was too indistinct to identify words, but one alarm tone was clear. Inés recognized it as the crew's portable gas monitor. The most disturbing detail came last. Just before the breaking rock, the future recording contained Mateo's own directional microphone striking stone. He knew the sound because the red shock mount added a tiny rubber squeak. The microphone was still clipped to his pack. But there was a more immediate problem. The fictional survey map placed Monday's bore directly above a blank section of limestone. The contractor's report called it solid bedrock. Recorder 7 had captured a large resonant chamber beneath that exact slope. If the map was wrong, the bore could puncture a cavern, an underground stream, or both. Mateo and Inés radioed the survey camp. A supervisor answered through static and said the cavity data was unverified. Their equipment had found no void. Work would proceed at first light Monday, as permitted. Inés asked for 24 hours. The supervisor gave them until Sunday afternoon to retrieve anything remaining on the survey side. They had found 4 of 12 recorders. The next 2 were gone. At each location, the strap remained closed around the tree as if the instrument had passed through it. Beneath each empty strap was one backward print, wet with the same mineral water. Mateo plotted the sites on his map. They formed a descending line toward the northern stream. Near midday, the line stopped at the water. 2 prints entered from the southern bank. None emerged on the other side. The stream was too shallow to conceal a person and too fast to preserve a track. Mateo walked its edge twice before noticing that the frogs had stopped calling upstream. In a healthy forest, silence had shape. This silence was moving. It traveled down the ravine toward them, one dark pocket at a time. 3 notes sounded from the ridge, impossibly distant. The water beside Mateo's hand rippled as though someone had exhaled across it. Under a curtain of roots, he saw a gap no wider than his shoulders. Cold water flowed out of it. Caught between 2 stones was the red shock mount from one of his missing microphones. The prince had not crossed the stream. They had walked into the mountain beneath it. Mateo wanted to enter immediately. Inés stopped him. She asked him to look at his own map again, not as a scientist reading instrument locations, but as a tracker reading repeated journeys. Every backward footprint seemed to point away from the cabin. Every crushed leaf showed movement toward it. Then the same trail returned toward the stream. The presence had traveled from the cavern to Mateo, night after night. But it had not entered his cabin to attack him. It had entered because he kept refusing to follow. The thing he interpreted as a closing circle was a route being drawn more clearly each morning. The Ciguapa was not hunting him. She was running out of time. They waited until the water dropped after sunset. Inés remained at the entrance with a rope and field radio. Mateo removed his boots, sealed his microphone in a dry bag, and crawled beneath the roots. The passage descended for 6 meters before opening into darkness. His light revealed pale limestone, hanging roots, and a ceiling trembling with bats. No treasure, no ruins, no invented temple waiting to be claimed. Only a living cavern shaped by water over more time than a person could imagine. On a shelf above the stream sat 7 missing recorders. They had been arranged in a crescent, each microphone aimed at the same black wall. Mateo switched on his receiver. The instruments were transmitting one after another. Recorder 3 captured the pulse of water. 6 captured stone strain. 8 captured the high wing noise of bats. 9 held the 3-note call. 10 held only silence. Played separately, they were fragments. Played together, they formed a repeating interval. Water, strain, wings, call, silence. Then again, faster. It was not a message in language. It was a warning any field scientist could understand. Mateo measured the interval against the survey coordinates. Each cycle shortened when he aimed the receiver toward the planned bore and lengthened when he turned away. The array was doing more than recording the cavern. It had become a crude directional instrument, using the mountain's own resonance to point at the danger above. No animal could have calibrated it. No person could have entered, removed the strapped units, and arranged them without leaving gear, rope, or a second set of tracks. But someone had understood what Mateo would trust. Not a warning told at a kitchen table. Not a shape seen in fog. Data. The chamber was filling. The rock above it was moving. The colony was preparing to leave. And after every 5th cycle, the recording from Monday played again. Engine, shouting, breaking stone. Mateo followed the microphones toward the black wall. Behind it, the low vibration grew strong enough to shake grit from the ceiling. He placed his palm against the limestone. 3 soft knocks answered from the other side. His light flickered. Across the stream stood a small figure with its back to him. Wet black hair reached almost to the stone. Moonlight could not have entered that chamber, yet a thin silver edge traced one shoulder. Mateo saw no face. He saw one bare foot lift from the water. The heel faced forward, the toes curled behind. The figure stepped toward the wall while the print appeared to point toward Mateo. Then it turned its head slightly, and the 3-note call sounded from somewhere far above them. Mateo raised his camera. For 1 second, the figure was perfectly framed. The shutter clicked. Every recorder stopped. In the silence, a new sound entered the cavern, a diesel engine. Not a recording this time. The survey team had begun a day early. Mateo grabbed the instruments and shouted into the radio. The cavern distorted his voice. Inés answered with broken words. She had seen lights moving on the upper road. The low vibration became a continuous growl. The figure crossed the stream. It passed close enough for Mateo to smell rain on leaves, but its hair never touched the water. It made 3 prints on a strip of pale mud. Their toes pointed deeper into the cavern. The compressed heels and sliding gravel showed movement toward the entrance. Mateo finally read them correctly. He followed. Outside, Inés had already started uphill. The direct trail to the drill crossed a brittle limestone shelf. The backward prints took a longer route through dense trees. Every time Mateo lost them, the call sounded far away, and a wet impression appeared near his feet. The farther the whistle seemed, the closer she was. They reached the survey clearing as the drill head touched stone. Mateo connected 3 recorders to his field speaker. Water, strain, and bat noise filled the clearing. He showed the supervisor the live vibration levels and the cold mineral water rising through cracks beside the rig. The supervisor hesitated. Then the ground beneath an empty fuel crate dropped several inches. That was enough. The engine stopped. The crew moved back. No one was injured. Less than a minute later, the bore platform tilted as a shallow section of limestone collapsed into a hidden channel. Mud and water filled the planned drill point. The mountain had not swallowed the crew. It had given them time to leave. By sunrise, the cavern entrance beneath the roots was sealed by stone. Environmental inspectors later confirmed a connected void, an active underground stream, and a significant bat habitat. The survey was suspended. The slope was closed pending a full study. The official report mentioned faulty subsurface readings and rapid water movement. It did not mention backward footprints. Mateo recovered 11 recorders. Number 10 remained inside the sealed chamber. His camera contained one clear image. It showed the stream, the pale wall, and a small figure edged in impossible silver light. Long hair concealed its form. One inverted foot hovered above the water without disturbing it. The image also contained precise location data. It was proof strong enough to attract researchers, hunters, tourists, and everyone who believed a mystery became theirs the moment they could name it. Inés did not tell Mateo what to do. She only asked whether saving a place and exposing it were always the same thing. Mateo copied the environmental recordings. He preserved the vibration data, the water levels, and every sound needed to protect the reserve. Then he deleted the photograph. He removed it from the backup as well. The strand found in Recorder 7 was never tested. Inés returned it to the stream before the inspectors arrived. Months later, a padded envelope reached my collection with no return address. Inside was Mateo's field map, an audio card, and a note containing one sentence. If the call sounds far away, look beside you. The card held 3 descending notes and the sound of a camera shutter. The image itself was gone. I cataloged the material as fiction because that is the only honest label this archive can give it. Then I locked the map in Evidence Room 3. The room has no windows. Its floor is dry stone. Only I carry the key. This morning there was a wet footprint inside the cabinet. Its toes pointed toward the back wall. The pressure in the heel pointed toward the door. So I will leave you with the question Mateo asked only after he learned how to read the trail. When footprints walk backward, are they hiding where something went, or warning you about what is coming closer? If you want the next file opened, remain with the archive. And if you hear 3 notes beyond your window tonight, do not trust the distance.